I mean, I taught my first harmony class in 1970. That's 50, 54 years ago. And
Wow.
I have given graduate placement exams in harmony for decades. And I think it's fair to say that people don't learn much in those courses. You know, given a summer off or a couple years off, they don't remember much of anything, which has always led me to believe that they didn't learn much in the first place, or at least not much that mattered to them.
This is a former student of yours. I've attended some of Professor Yertigan's classes on figure-based and schemata theory. These were mind-opening classes, to my understanding, much of his work. But to my understanding, much of his work on schemata theory came before his discovery of Partimento. My question is, how would these undergraduate theory classes been different had your discovery of Partimento literature occurred earlier?
Yes. I don't remember having any students named Agamemnon, but I'm very grateful that he enjoyed the time or she enjoyed the time. Um, I think I had one opportunity to teach Partimenti before I retired, and it was in a keyboard lab. And it was one of the most fun classes I had. I tried really hard to almost never speak. And it was just monkey see, monkey do. But you can't believe how successful that is. Seriously. You know, I would go, and then the students, you know, would go, and then I would go, and they would go, and then I would go, and they would go. And then the tricky part. We've now learned the circle of fifths. I mean, it's really that easy. I had one student at the end of 10 weeks went off to Amsterdam to enroll in a continual playing course at a high level. I was amazed. You know, we make this stuff really hard in, in college courses. But at the end of the day, if you there's a beautiful simplicity that can be found. And if you can find that, it's really rewarding. And it's a lot of fun. And
So
I think,
you would have changed your theory class then to be more like that. Of course, you have to explain, right? Because it's a theory class, so you can't get away with not talking, though.
well, you know, as a senior faculty member, I was allowed to so-called waste a quarter of the student's time on something a little bit experimental. Trying to do that in basic theory courses would be really tough because everybody would fight you. You know, the wind players would say, "Well, I'm going to have to pass the graduate placement exam at Eastman, so I have got to know 265 of three." And there's a lot of institutional um, force that makes theory classes the way they are. I mean, there's 2,000 different schools teaching music theory, and there's hardly a whisper of a difference between any of them, as if there's total agreement that this is what needs to be done. I think the total agreement is this is what people can pass, even if they're untalented. And so it's very hard to get beyond that.
Mm.
I mean, there was a point at Northwestern where I said, look, this is a pretty high level conservatory. Can you really say that getting a C in the identification of triads is adequate to go on to a harmony class. What does that mean? That you get 65% right? No. So I put through a series of so-called skills tests that you had to get 95% right in like 3 minutes before you could go on. I had students and one teacher crying in my office.
Mm.
They thought this was totally unfair. This was cruel.
Mm.
That there's no way they could ever do such a thing. To look at CEG and say that's a major triad
Mm.
that quickly. They thought that these were items of study and contemplation. Like maybe that's an overnight assignment.
Yeah.
So yes, there are reasons that there's a line from Middlemarch, famous 19th century novel, that said that the first job of the minister in the church is to fill the church.
Mm.
And, and in the business of music departments, you might say the first job of a music department is to fill the department.
Ah.
And if you're really hardcore about skills, and it's going to be hard to fill the department.
Mm. Well, what do you think of Professor Job Agerman kind of scrapping the and using his harmony, counterpoint, and Partimento textbook instead, which I think is really good.
It's brilliant. He has the advantage of being an elite teacher. I mean, amazing teacher, and teaching elite students. The Conservatory of Amsterdam is one of the great conservatories on the continent, and it's especially known for its early music programs. So, I
So
mean,
the
I've
stars
heard
are aligned in that situation, but it's a little harder in North America.
I've heard groups somewhere on the internet. I hope it's there. Somewhere on the internet, you can find uh, a quartet of his students improvising four-part music on a thorough bass, and it's beautiful.
Mm, that's
I
great.
mean, they see a figured bass, and one will sing the bass. That's the easy part. But the other three are doing suspensions and resolutions and all the harmonies, and just gorgeous.
Mm, that's great.
So yeah, it was. Um, I think it was impressively successful.